Shabbat Shalom, everyone. For those of you who are joining us on YouTube and TempleShalom.com live, Shabbat Shalom to all of you as well. Happy to see all of you, or you can see me. I guess I can't really see you, but welcome to all of you as well. We begin on page 128 in our Siddur, in our prayer book. Not quite at the top of the page, but the second song from the bottom of the top of the page. Ma Yafeh Hayom, what a beautiful day it is. Shabbat Shalom, a Shabbat of peace. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. 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 Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Right above those words, top of page 128, from Psalm 133, how good and wonderful it is that all of us are able to be here and sit together. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. If you turn back just a little bit to page 120, we come to the blessing for lighting our Shabbat candles. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlikner shel Shabbat. Praise for you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who makes us holy with your commandments and commands us to light the candles of Shabbat. We continue now on page 130 as we make our way through a section of the service called Kabbalat Shabbat, or the receiving of Shabbat. This was added into, this is a very, very new section of the service in the Jewish community because it's only like 500 years old. So that makes it really, really new in Jewish history. And it was added by the Kabbalists, or the Jewish mystics in northern Israel, about 500 years ago. They had this idea which held true then and still holds true today, which is that when Shabbat was arriving, none of us were ready. We're too busy worrying about other things. Homework, laundry, that stack of stuff sitting on my desk at work, all the things I haven't taken care of that should have been done that aren't, and I'm so worried about that stuff that I'm not thinking about the peace of Shabbat. And so they said we need a little introductory section to kind of get us in the proper mindset for Shabbat. And they decided to take some of these psalms that are psalms of praise, praises of God, and say, I'm going to use these to bring myself into the presence of God and into the presence of Shabbat. We begin with words that come from Psalm 95. Lechu neranina l'Adonai, let us sing joyfully to God, page 130. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina l'Adonai. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina l'Adonai. Naria, naria, l'tzur yishenu, nekadma fana b'toda. Naria, naria, l'tzur yishenu, bizmirot naria lo. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina l'Adonai. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina l'Adonai. On page 131, in the middle of Psalm 96, for those of you who'd like the translation, you'll find it on page 132. But if you're looking at the Hebrew, you'll find it on 131. The bottom paragraph, Yismechu Hashamayim, may the heavens be glad, V'tagel haaretz, and may the earth rejoice. Yiram Hayam, may the sea join in. Umelo'o, and all that fill it. May all of God's creations praise God for creation. Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'tagel haaretz. Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'tagel haaretz. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Umelo'o. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Umelo'o. Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'tagel haaretz. As we turn to page 132, 4 lines from the bottom in the Hebrew, or if you're looking at the translation, 4 lines from the bottom of the English that's at the top of page 133. We say, Or zarua lat tzadik, light is sown for the righteous, Ul yishrei lev simcha, and for those who are good-hearted or straight of heart, there will be happiness. A message from Psalms that tells us that if we are righteous people and if we are good-hearted people, we will be rewarded with light in our lives and with happiness as well. Or zarua lat tzadik, ul yishrei lev simcha. Or zarua lat tzadik, ul yishrei lev simcha. Or zarua lat tzadik, ul yishrei lev simcha. Ul yishrei lev simcha. Or zarua lat tzadik, ul yishrei lev simcha. Ul yishrei lev simcha. Lai 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 lai, lai 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 lai, lai 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 lai, lai 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 lai, lai 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 lai, lai 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 lai. Or zarua lat tzadik, ul yishrei lev simcha. Or zarua lat tzadik, ul yishrei lev simcha. Psalm 98 on page 133. We'll read together in English at the bottom of the page. A psalm. Sing to Adonai a new song, for God has worked wonders. God's right hand, God's holy arm, has won God victory. Adonai has manifested God's victory, has displayed God's triumph in the sight of the nations. God was mindful of God's steadfast love and faithfulness toward the house of Israel. All the ends of the earth beheld the victory of our God. Raise a shout to Adonai, all the earth. Break into joyous songs of praise. And we sing another of those joyous songs of praise, page 135, the last three lines in the Hebrew of Psalm 99. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, exalt Adonai our God, v'hishtachavu lahar kodsho, and prostrate ourselves or bow down all the way down to the ground. Lahar kodsho, at God's holy mountain. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu, because Adonai our God is holy. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, v'hishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, v'hishtachavu lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, v'hishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, v'hishtachavu lehar kodsho. Page 136 and 137. Psalm 29, another psalm of praise. We'll read the words together on both pages in English, and we'll sing the last couple of lines in Hebrew after that. A psalm of David. Ascribe to Adonai, O divine beings. Ascribe to Adonai glory and strength. Ascribe to Adonai the glory of God's name. Bow down to Adonai, majestic in holiness. The voice of Adonai is over the waters. The God of glory thunders, Adonai over the mighty waters. The voice of Adonai is power. The voice of Adonai is majesty. The voice of Adonai breaks cedars. Adonai shatters the cedars of Lebanon. God makes Lebanon skip like a calf, Sirion like a young wild ox. The voice of Adonai kindles flames of fire. The voice of Adonai convulses the wilderness. Adonai convulses the wilderness of Kadesh. The voice of Adonai causes hinds to calve and strips forests bare. While in God's temple all say glory. Adonai sat enthroned at the flood. Adonai sits enthroned sovereign forever. May Adonai grant strength to God's people. May Adonai bestow on God's people well-being. Those last two lines in the Hebrew are Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. They're right there on page 137. We begin, instead of with Hebrew, we begin with, we'll start in Hebrew, but not the words on the page, but lai, 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 lai. Now we'll do it in English. Lai, 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 lai. Adonai oz le'amo yitain, yitain. Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Adonai oz le'amo yitain, yitain. Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Now, if you were following along and counting, you would have counted that we've made our way through how many Psalms? It would be 6. One for each day of the week, Sunday through Friday. And then a bridge, this next prayer that we'll say now. And then another psalm, a 7th psalm for the Psalm of Shabbat. This is the way those mystics 500 years ago envisioned it. If we took one psalm to say goodbye to every day of the week, and then took another psalm to say hello to Shabbat, and then a little welcoming of Shabbat, the Kabbalists, these mystics, they had this idea of viewing Shabbat like a bride, and like coming of Shabbat is coming into a wedding. And so we greet the Shabbat bride with these words of Lecha Dodi on page 138 and 139, a 500-year or so old poem that speaks of, well, all sorts of biblical principles. Tonight we're going to sing verses 1 and 2 on page 138, and then verses 5 and 9 on page 139. Lecha dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad yishmi'anu el ha'miyuchad Adonai echad Shemo echad v'shem u'tiferet ve'tila lecha dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha Merosh Mikedem Nesucha Sof Ma'aseh B'machshevat Tehila Lecha dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Verse number 5. Hit'oreri Va'oret kuli uri uri shir dabei kevod Adonai alayich nila lecha dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. We rise as we face the door to welcome in the image of the Shabbat bride. Boi v'shalom ateret bala gam b'simcha u'vtzola toch emunei am segula boi chala Boi chalav lecha dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. We've greeted the Shabbat bride, so we'll greet each other. Before we're seated, turn to the people in front of you, behind you, to your left and to your right, and wish everybody Shabbat Shalom. Oh, this is for the people online? There we go. Those of you who are at home, we miss you. Although we see you there, so there we go. Thanks, Judy. Whoops. We can all be seated as we turn to page 140. On 140, we will see Psalm 92. Psalm 92 is the psalm that in ancient times The Levites, as they were preparing the ancient temple for Shabbat, would recite and sing this psalm, probably not to this melody, because this melody is maybe 100 or 150 years old, something like that, but probably to some ancient melody that brought great joy as they prepared everything in the temple for the sacrifices and for all the services that would happen there. We sing it with another joyful melody because it's a joyful psalm. It is good to sing a song of Shabbat, to give thanks to God and to speak of God's name most high. Psalm 92, page 140. Mizmor shir liyom haShabbat, tov lehodot la'Adonai, ulezamer lashimcha elyon, ulezamer lashimcha elyon. Mizmor shir liyom haShabbat, tov lehodot la'Adonai, ulezamer lashimcha elyon, ulezamer lashimcha elyon. Hagi baboker chastecha, ve'emunatecha ba'leilot, alei asor ve'aleina ve'lalei higayon b'chigot. Mizmor shir liyom haShabbat, tov lehodot la'Adonai, ulezamer lashimcha elyon, ulezamer lashimcha elyon. Simchtani Adonai b'fo'olecha, v'ma'aseh yadecha arani. Ma gadlu ma'asecha Adonai me'od, amku machshavotecha. Mizmor shir liyom haShabbat, tov lehodot la'Adonai, ulezamer lashimcha elyon, ulezamer lashimcha elyon, ulezamer lashimcha elyon, ulezamer lashimcha elyon. We continue on page 144 with Chatzi Kaddish. Yitkada v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, Yalma divrach Yerutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon, uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala, ba'agala, uv'izman kaharivim eru, amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach, le'olam u'lam me'almaya yitbarach, Yitbarach, Vishtabach, Yitbar, Vidromam, Vidnaseh, Vitadar, Vitale, Vithalal, Shemei Dukudesha, Burichu, Le'ela min kol berchata, V'shirata, Tushbechata, V'nechemata, Damihiron be'alma, V'imeru, Amen. And for our guests who are keeping score, that was your third language of the night. Because that prayer was not in English, obviously, and it also was not in Hebrew. That prayer was actually in Aramaic. So there you go. You got a third language in tonight. We're going to turn to page 146. We rise for this prayer. Baruch Hu is our invitation to prayer. Our service starts right now. I know you thought we've been doing things for about 20 or so minutes, but that was all the introductory prayers. The real service actually starts right here with our invitation to prayer with these words of Baruch Hu. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai la lai 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 lai. Baruch Hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach. Hamevorach eolam va'ed. Hamevorach, Hamevorach eolam va'ed. be seated. Page 149. We give thanks for the gift of God's creation. So we read together in the middle of the page, "This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over?" The last three lines of the Hebrew on 148, a blessing of this thanks for creation. El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu, le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. Lai, 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 on page 150, we give thanks for the gift of Torah. We said on the odd-numbered pages, for those who want to read more English, the odd-numbered pages have the poetic renditions on the theme of the prayer, but on the even-numbered pages underneath the Hebrew are the translations. This prayer says, "Thank you, God, for loving us and showing us your love by giving us your greatest gift, the gift of Torah, all of its lessons and all of its pathways, so that we might have, sometimes I have to call it human GPS. It gets us from one part of our humanity to another part of our humanity. 613 commandments. We'll talk about 10 commandments a little bit later tonight. But 613 total commandments that are our life and the length of our days, as some of the words of this prayer tell us. We give thanks for that love and this gift of Torah, page 150. Ahavat olam et Yisrael amcha ahavta amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot hukim u'mishpatim otanu Otanu limadita Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shochvenu v'kumenu nasiach b'chukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha v'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed ki hein l'chayei ובהם נהגי יומם ולילה, נהגי יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. On page 152 and 153, recite words that come to us from chapter 6 of the book of Deuteronomy that speak of the oneness and the singular greatness of God. We join together in the words of Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Page 154. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha v'chol nafshecha v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uvshochbecha uvkumecha ukshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot be'einecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tiskeru vasitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kedoshim le'elechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'elohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem emet. We read together a poetic translation of the words we just chanted from both the book of Deuteronomy and from the book of Numbers on page 155. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you are tired or you are rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai, your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai, your God. We've given thanks for creation and given thanks for the gift of Torah and spoken of the oneness and the love of God. We speak every day in our service, not just on Shabbat, but our prayers every day, about the exodus from Egypt, the greatest thing that God did for us, the greatest miracle, bringing us out from slavery and into a world of freedom that we know is still not complete. We begin to tell this story of freedom and its incompleteness on page 157 as we read responsively. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice. And from bondage in Sinai and in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. And these words that we find on page 158 that we actually read in last week's Torah portion. Last week we read of the Song of the Sea, the song that our ancestors sang as they made their way to freedom. Who is like you, O God, among the gods that are worshipped? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in splendor, working wonders? Lai 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 la lai la 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 lai 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 la lai la 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 lai ya lai 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 la la lai ya lai 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 ya la 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 lai Kamocha ba'edim Adonai Kamocha ne'edav HaKodesh Torati lo osef belech מלכותך רבו בניך, חוקי הים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי אנו ואמרו, זה אלי אנו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. לי 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 לי. Thus it is said, Adonai redeemed Jacob from a hand stronger than his own. Baruch atah Adonai, praise to you Adonai, Go'al Yisrael, the Redeemer of Israel. Each night we ask God to lie us down in peace, to protect us through the night, and cause us to rise up again tomorrow to life. During the night, we ask that God will protect our soul from enemy and illness and war, from famine and sorrow and from wrongdoing. That God will watch our going and our coming for now and forever. And God will spread over us a shelter of God's peace. This prayer on page 160, it's kind of our Jewish lullaby. It's in our service each and every night of the week. Lie us down in peace. Cause us to rise again tomorrow to life. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom. We go to the third line of the prayer. Ufos Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha. The last three lines. Baruch atah Adonai Aporei Sukkot Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom. On page 162 at the top of the page, we come to some words that come to us from the book of Exodus, chapter 31. The story is, we know that Moses went up the mountain to get the law from God. He was up on the mountain for how many days? Any number between 39 and 41. I'll take any guesses in there that anybody wants to guess. That was great. 40 days. Moses is up there talking to God for 40 days. Moses comes down the mountain. There's more to learn, so Moses goes up the mountain for 40 days and comes back down the mountain. And then one more time, to make it a nice round number of 120, God goes up the mountain for 40 more days. Moses goes up the mountain to God for 40 more days. And as Moses is about to leave, God says one last thing. I've given you all these laws, but I want to give you this reminder. Tell the people this. The people of Israel will keep Shabbat. Observing Shabbat throughout the ages is a covenant for all time. It is a sign for all time between me and the people of Israel. For in 6 days God made the heavens and the earth, And on the seventh day, God ceased from all the work and refreshed God's soul, and we cease from all the work on our Shabbat and refresh our souls. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorot adorit olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorot adorit olam. Ben yuvein b'nei Yisrael oti leolam, oti leolam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorot adorit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorot adorit olam. U'v'yom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorot adorit olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorot adorit olam. We'll turn to page 64, as well, 164, I should say, 164. 64 is probably nice too, but we're not going to go there. Page 164, as we rise, we come to a section of our service called the Amidah. Amidah means standing. We call it that because we stand for this section of the service. It has another name, Shmona Esrei, which means 18, because during the week it is made up of 19 blessings. That's a totally different class for another time. But on Shabbat, it's made up of 7 blessings. 3 blessings praising God. 1 blessing that's a very long blessing of Shabbat. And then 3 blessings thanking God. We will say the little zimun. Zimun means meditation. There's a meditation on page 164. We're going to make our way through the even-numbered pages. We will sing together the words on 166, 168, and 170. This is a prayer that is both communal and personal. So as we make our way through those pages, you can read the Hebrew. You can read the Hebrew transliteration. You can read the English translation. You can read the odd-numbered pages with the poetry that's on the themes of the prayers. After we read those 3 paragraphs together, we'll continue silently through 180 or 181. You can pray the Hebrew. You can pray the English. Or as the rabbis of the Talmud would say, you should also take some time to pray those things that you find written on the pages of your own heart, the pages of your own mind, the pages of your own soul. We'll pray together, we'll pray silently, and then when you've finished your silent prayers, you can be seated. We begin together on 164. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. 166. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'konei hakol, v'zocher chaste avot v'imahot, u'mevi geula livnei v'neihem, l'ma'an shemo be'ahava. Melech ozer u'moshiach u'magin, Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Avraham, Ve'ezrat Sarah 168. Ata gibor le'olam Adonai. Mechaye hakol ata. Rav lehoshia. Mashiv haruach. Umorid haga Hashem. Mechalkel chayim bechesed. Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim. Somech noflim verofei cholim. Umatir asurim. Umekayem emunato. Lishene afar. Michamocha ba'al gevurot. Umido melach. Melech meimit umechaye. Umatzmiach Yeshua. V'ne'eman ata lachayot hakol. Baruch ata Adonai. Mechaye hakol 170. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh. Ukadoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah. Baruch ata Adonai. Ha'el HaKadosh. We continue with silent prayer on the pages of the book or the pages of your heart. When you finished your conversation with God, please be seated. page 180. From our communal prayers and our silent prayers, the final meditation, that God may hear our words. Yiyu Luratzon Imrefi Begyon Libi Lifanecha Adonai Tsuri V'goali Adonai Tsuri V'goali. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart, may they all be acceptable unto you, Adonai, my rock and my Redeemer. Adonai, my rock and my Redeemer. We take a moment to think of those who are in need of healing. You'll find the words of our Misha Bera healing prayer in the middle of page 371. We ask for God to bring Refuah Shlema, complete healing, to Brian Zabel, Reuven ben Sipora, Moshe ben Avraham, Ellen McIntosh, Faye Green, Malka bat Hillel Halevi, Yisrael Aharon ben Reuven Chaim O'Kohen, Harriet Neal, Shmuel ben Yosef, Chris Kaplan, Genendel ben Spatsima, Azi Rahmani, Beth Maxwell, Avraham ben Meir, Tova bat Rasha, David Zimmerman, Sue Laughlin, Lee Rosser, Leilani Elledge, Howard Messerman, and Howard Chook. For those of you at home, if you have names of people who are in need of healing, you can say their names where you are or type them into the chat function on the platform that you are using. For those of us here, if we have any names of anybody, we'll start on this side, names for healing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Any others on this side of the room, names for healing? On this side of the room, any names that anybody has for healing prayers? Thank you. Any others on this side of the room, prayers for healing? For all those we've named, for all those in need, may God bring each and every one of them for Refuah Shleiman min hashamayim, complete healing from the heavens, Refuat HaNefesh, healing of the soul, Refuat HaGuf, healing of the body. As we join together in these words of healing. Misheberach Avoteinu Mikor HaBracha Leimoteinu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi Shebera imotenu mikor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. This week in our Torah portion, we read from a portion called Yitro, which in English means Jethro, Moses' father-in-law. And in this Torah portion, we stand at Mount Sinai to receive the Ten Commandments. For those of you who will be with us tomorrow morning, we will literally stand in the sanctuary here as we read the Ten Commandments out loud. Except there's a problem. And the problem is that there are actually not 10 commandments. I know earlier I said there's 613 commandments in the Torah, and that's the traditional number we say are in the Torah. But the 10 commandments, those 2 tablets that Moses brought down the mountain from Mount Sinai, that God gave to Moses, and then Moses broke, and then went back up the mountain and redid them. The things that we all call the 10 commandments, those are not the 10 commandments because there are not 10 commandments there. I guess a little explanation. Because the first thing we should know is that when people talk about the 10 commandments, we don't know what you're talking about. Why don't we know what you're talking about? Because the Jewish 10 commandments and the Catholic 10 commandments and the part of the Protestant world 10 commandments and another part of the Protestant world 10 commandments and the 10 commandments according to Philo and the 10 commandments according to the Samaritans are totally different. What that means is this: we label them differently. In Judaism, the first commandment, and it's not a commandment, we'll get to that in a second, but I'll call it commandments until I stop calling it commandments. The first commandment is Anochi Adonai Elohecha asher hotzeiticha me'eretz Mitzrayim mibeit avadim, period, end of sentence. Translation: I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, the house of bondage. That's it. That's the first commandment. In some Christian counting, and I always get this messed up, so I'm not going to tell you which one's which because I always mess it up. In some Christian counting, that's not in the 10 Commandments. That's a preamble to the 10 Commandments. In some Christian counting, that's the first part of the first commandment, and it continues on saying, you will not make any graven images of the things in the sea and in the sky, and you will not bow down to them, etc., etc. So when we talk about the 10 Commandments, we all may be talking about different things. As a matter of fact, according to Philo, the 10th commandment is one that not Jews or Christians or Muslims count as one of the 10 commandments, but Philo counted it as the 10th commandment. So go figure that one out. I don't know. I don't know why, but he did. But they're not really 10 commandments. In Hebrew, we call them the Aseret Hadibrot. Aseret means 10, and Hadibrot means not commandments. It means statements, utterances, things. So 10 statements, 10 utterances, 10 things. But really, it's not really 10. It's really 1 plus 2. That's what's there. It's 1 plus 2. So I guess it's 3 commandments, maybe. I know people label them differently than I do, but I'm going to start calling them the 3 commandments. And the 3 commandments are this. Commandment number 1, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Understand the power of God and our relationship with God and our ability to speak to God and to also listen to God, and for God to speak to us and also listen to us. Commandment number 2, which goes on for what some people label as part of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and maybe 5 in the way that most people kind of label them in that realm, sort of, kind of. But they're this. Be thankful for the gifts that you have in the world. Because God gave us this beautiful world and gave us gifts in this world. Don't covet the things that others have, and take a little time to rest on the Sabbath. Don't bow down to idols. but appreciate the goodness in the world. Commandment number 3, the final commandment. The final commandment is this: respect the rights of others. Don't murder people. By the way, it doesn't say thou shalt not kill. Nowhere in the Bible does it say thou shalt not kill. It says lo tirtzach, which means do not murder. That's the real translation. People always say to me, how can you go to war if it says don't kill? Because it doesn't say don't kill. It says don't murder. That's a whole other discussion. It also says, don't bear false witness against another person, which the Talmud compares to murdering someone. Because if you lie about someone, you've ruined their reputation. But respect the rights of others. Don't murder them. Don't steal their stuff. Don't cheat them. Don't lie on them. That's it. Those are all the commandments. Realize that we have a relationship with God. Appreciate all of the gifts that God gave us in this world. And respect the rights of other people. There's a famous story in the Talmud. Someone comes to Rabbi Hill and says, teach me the entire Torah while standing on one foot. It's an expression to mean, teach me everything quickly, because most of us can't stand on one foot for a long time. And he says to him this: do not do to others what you do not want to have done to you. The rest of it is commentary. Now go learn it. So what do we learn? What's the commentary? The commentary is we have a relationship with God. God gave us a beautiful world that we should appreciate, and we should respect the other people who are in that world with us. It's a little differently than Rabbi Hillel said it, but it's the same basic idea. We make a big deal out of these 10 commandments. In ancient times, the Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 statements, were recited each and every day during the morning service until the rabbis removed it from the prayer book. Why did they remove it from the prayer book? Because they realized that the people said, well, if we're saying these 10, the other 603 out of the 613 must not be that important, because if they were, we'd say all of those too. So they decided to remove it from the prayer book. But they're still there for us to learn from. And so even tomorrow morning, we will stand, just like we did at Mount Sinai, to hear the Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 statements, 10 commandments, if you want to call them that. But we know that really, to summarize them, it says this: love God, love the world, and love the people in that world. I often get asked to come speak at various places, churches, Christian day schools, world religions class at UCCS and at Colorado College. And one of the questions I always get asked is this: which religion is the right religion? And all the students, of course, think I'm going to say, well, of course, I'm a rabbi. Judaism is the right religion. But the Talmud teaches this. Shivim panim LaTorah, it says in Hebrew. There's 70 faces to the Torah, which teaches me Shivim drachim l'Hashem, which means there are 70 pathways to God. And 70, for those who know the story of the Tower of Babel, when the Tower of Babel fell, God confounded all the languages of the world into 70 languages. 70 meaning not 70, 70 meaning all of them. And so 70 pathways to God means that there are lots of pathways to God. And so what is the right religion? I always tell those classes, and I'll tell you now, I do know the answer to that question of what the correct religion is. Would you like to know the answer? I'll tell you. It's the one that follows those 3 commandments. Love God, love the world, and love the people in that world. If your religion teaches you that, you have the right religion. If your religion doesn't teach you that, you should look for a different one, because that's what every religion is supposed to teach you. And if you are on one of those 70 pathways that teaches you that, you're on the right path. You have the right religion, and you have the right and correct path in life. And that's the message of this week's Torah portion, and of our 10, or maybe 9, or maybe 3 commandments. Love God, love the world, and love everyone in that world. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may this be God's will for each and every one of us. Amen. We're going to bring ourselves to the closing prayers of our service. As we turn to page 586 near the back of our book, the bottom paragraph of that page, as we all rise for the prayer called Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, la'tet gdula liyotzeh bereshit, shelo asanu k'goyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu ki mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gohor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, Lifnei melech malchei hamelachim hakadosh baruch hu 188 shehu notei shamayim ve'yoser haaretz umoshav v'karo b'shamayim ima'ah ushchinatu zo v'govei meromim hu Eloheinu einod hemet malkeinu efes ulato Kakatu betorato Viadata hayom V'hashevota elevavecha Ki Adonai hua Elohim Bashamayim nima'al Ve'al ha'aretz Mitachat einod the middle of page 590 Yamachut shalcha hi olam timloch bechavod. Kakatu b'toratecha Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz. Bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad. Ushemo echad, Ushemo echad. We can all be seated. We turn our thoughts to those who died at this time of year in years gone by, as we remember the anniversaries of their deaths. In Hebrew we call it a yahrzeit. This week we recall the memories of Angela Chavez, Frida Gordon, Irene Zemansky, Joe Klein, Julie Benamu, Leon Bach, Stanley Spaeth, Benji Lebo, Claire Nathanson, Frederick Shiner, Hyman Cherry, Neil Forrest, Recha Haim, Susan Emmerich, Philip Mazer, Abe Flax, Adolf Halpert, Alan Friedman, Marilyn Brownfield, Bernard Mertz, Ruth Peterman, Sam Emerson, Sam Robbins, Donna Tanner, Edith Schneider, Jesse Mendelson, Suzanne Hirsch DeLuca, Carl Korn, Edwin Hutner, Jerry Eberhardt, Jean Raphael, Regina Flax, Peter Weiss, Sidney Hill, Charles Rubensall, Gerald Burson, Hyman Zemansky, Jenny Gerber, and Philip Blumenthal. Are there any other yahrzeits that anybody is observing this week? Yehu zichronam levracha. May their memories be an eternal blessing. We ask mourners to rise, and those whose custom it is to stand by their side. As we turn in our prayer book to page 598, we recite the words of the Kaddish Tome, the mourner's Kaddish, or the mourner's sanctification. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayei chon uv'yomei chon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevarach la'alam u'la'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudesha b'reichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata. Ta'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shamaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom v'imrama. Huya say shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. We can all be seated. Before we bring our service to a close, David, do you have announcements? Fantastic. We'll invite David Weiss, Vice President of our congregation, to share with us a few announcements of important upcoming things that you should all know.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And if you're new or visiting Temple Shalom for the first time, welcome. Be sure to introduce yourself, and it's great to see everybody. And particularly welcome First United Methodist Church visitors. It's awesome. And thank you, Rabbi Jay Sherwood, for leading us this evening. And thanks for everybody who participated in the service this evening. It's really wonderful to see everybody. A couple announcements. The Ritual Committee is looking for a few good folks who'd like to be leaders in the Kabbalat Shabbat services on next Friday and Friday the 14th.
Because the rabbi's on vacation next Friday.
Yeah, but they have the 17th first, and 17th and then April 14th. That's what it is.
There we go.
Yeah, the rabbi's on vacation.
I'm on vacation that weekend too.
Individuals and groups would be welcome. Contact Debbie Patz or Judy Karnick to volunteer or get some information. And everybody who participated in the fourth Friday Shabbat potluck dinner had a wonderful time. You can join the fun and connection by signing up on templeshalom.com for our next fourth Friday on February 24th. Tell us who's coming and what you're bringing to share. And that really is a wonderful time, that dinner. And my mom doesn't feel well tonight, but I told her she can come to that, so she has something to look forward to. Yeah. Our film series continues to be outstanding with its second offering of Farewell, Mr. Halfman on Sunday, February 26th. The program starts at 4:30. $10 gets you the film and access to the brief discussion and a wine and cheese reception with your fellow film lovers. And Purim is around the corner. Sign up with Judy Karnick. I guess she went back there. Yeah, I was looking for her.
She's sitting right there, but not anymore now. She's back there.
To participate in an original special Purim play, members can find contact support in the monthly member e-bulletin. Rehearsals have started. Ooh, exciting. Temple Shalom is hiring an education coordinator and an executive director. Contact our current executive director, Elena Rathman, for further information. And if you know of any Temple members who are ill, hospitalized, or suffering from a loss, please contact the Temple office so we can be sure to provide encouragement and support. And thanks to Temple Shalom for the oneg this evening and all the people I see back there putting it together, including Judy Karnick. Thank you very much, everyone. Any other announcements? Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, David. Yeah. Truth be told, I'm really not on vacation next week. I'll actually be in California with our teenagers from the temple. So we have our teen trip is next weekend. So that's why I'll be gone from here next weekend. So if anybody wants to help with that service, please let us know. We're going to end our service with a prayer for peace. It's a song on page 647. It's not the one at the very bottom of the page, but the one right above that. May the one who causes peace to reign in the high heavens make peace descend on us and all of Israel, and let us say amen. That's the words that we're going to sing. A little melody that goes a little something like this. Oh, say shalom, bimroma, uya say shalom, aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Oh, say shalom b'imroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'alko Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. To those of you online with us on YouTube and TempleShalom.com, Shabbat Shalom. Have a wonderful evening. For the rest of us, we'll make our way into the social hall for a little kiddush, a little motzi. And for our guests here afterwards, you'll eat a little something, and then we can come chat a little bit, and I'll answer questions for you. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Oh, say Shalom, B'mroma, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imeru, Amen. Oh, say Shalom b'imroma, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru,